I don't get it.
Podcast.
Hey guys, it's Ashley.
Lauren.
And Naz.
And we thought a huge I don't get it that we've never brushed upon yet was dating and forming relationships when you have an STI. Now,
Or
my
an
first
STD.
my first question of the day was, what is the difference between an STD and an STI? Because all of a sudden, the lingo in America changed over the past couple of years. People started calling them STIs. And I'm like, okay, is it inappropriate of me to call it an STD now?
This is the first time I'm hearing STI.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I always just thought they were all STDs.
I've always said STD until now. And
I
now
love that
guess
we're diving
we're
into
educating
this.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from expose and stdcheck.com. I want to read you the answer to this because I don't want to like flub it up in any way. An infection is often the first step of a disease and occurs when either bacteria or viruses enter the body and start multiplying. The disruption of normal body function or structure, especially when signs and symptoms appear, is considered a disease, as long as the cause of it is not the result of an injury. So this means, medically speaking, all STDs start out as STIs. STIs that progress into disease is an STD. For example, here.
So would that
Chlamydia.
be like HIV maybe? And then AIDS is the disease? HIV would be the STI?
I would assume
Maybe?
so, but perhaps we cannot confirm that. But that's what I would gather from.
But what we gathered is that, like, if, for example, chlamydia, if you have chlamydia, that is an infection, and
Yeah.
if it goes untreated, you get pelvic inflammatory disease, and then you have the disease.
Right.
Perfect
Or we were talking about
explanation.
HPV too, because so many women have it. If you don't get the cancerous strand, then you have an STI. But
Yeah.
if you get cervical cancer, then it's the
a
STD.
disease. Okay, perfect.
But,
Great explanation.
I love that we're doing this because
too.
I feel like so many people are embarrassed to tell a sexual partner or someone they're with or even their friends and family that they have gotten an STI or an STD. And I feel like if we just get some people to come on and talk about it and make it normalize it, it won't be as like embarrassing.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like if you hear
for
that
them.
someone has like herpes or something, they're like, oh, don't touch me. It's, like, it's not
Yeah.
like that, so just chill the fuck out, you know?
It's crazy to me because herpes, I have friends with herpes, and that's the one that's so normal. Like you can get medicine, take it every day, and just
Yeah.
live a normal life
Yeah.
without symptoms. Out of all of them, I think.
Yeah, it was so weird when I actually put up our post on our Facebook that I was looking for people who had an STI. I was listening to Jared record his Help I Suck at Dating podcast, and one of their emails was a girl who had herpes and how she had to deal with it. I was like, this is just too bizarre that you guys are reading this email as I'm writing this post out. But that
How
was one
bizarre.
email.
How bizarre.
Yeah. And now we want to focus the entire podcast episode on it. But bottom line is that girl with the email said that dating with herpes was really no big deal for her.
That's
thank goodness.
awesome.
Yeah,
it
and I
shouldn't
think
be.
I think it's such a huge taboo, especially with herpes, because like everybody thinks of chlamydia and gonorrhea as like, oh, you take a Z-Pack and you're usually good.
Right.
But I think herpes is like, you know,
It's, like,
they
easier to
say
fix
it's
than
not
a cold.
curable, right?
right. But we'll get into herpes. We're going to start with HIV, right, Ashley?
Yes. So I have a friend who she's a child life specialist at a hospital, and she actually contracted HIV when she was 12 years old. I think she was 12, but she's going to explain all these details from a blood transfusion.
I think she was 3, right?
3? Was she? Is that what
She was like little. Or
Oh, she was that young?
Maybe.
Oh,
I guess
she'll
we'll
tell
find
us.
out.
She'll tell us. But yeah, she had an issue. She had a disease, and then she needed blood transfusions for it. And even though this was back in the 80s, I believe, they still weren't, I guess, checking thoroughly enough the blood that was going through these transfusions, and that's how she got HIV. But now she's been married for 10 years, and we just want to see how she, you know, how her life has been, obviously, like having to tell people in her life that she has it, but also how she got with her husband and how he handled with that information when he first got it.
Incredible. I want to just read what HIV is because I never actually knew what it stood for. So just for everyone listening, HIV stands for human immunodeficiency virus, and it's the virus that can lead to acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which is AIDS, if it's not treated. So once you get HIV, you have it for life, and HIV attacks the body's immune system, which specifically the SD4 cells, which help the immune system fight off infections. And that's what AIDS is.
And just Jamie, who we're about to get on the phone right now, she also has a book about her experience for anybody who wants to download it or buy it at a bookstore, on Amazon, whatever. It's Surviving HIV, Growing Up a secret and being positive. All right. Hey, Jamie.
Hi, ladies.
All right. We have a lot of questions for you, but before we pepper you with questions, why don't you give us a little background on you, what you've written, and how you contracted HIV?
Okay. So the story starts way back in 1979.
79. Oh, wow. Long time ago. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Stop that now. You're only like 10 years older than me, not even.
So I was born with a cardiac defect that we didn't actually know what it was in the very beginning. And I, as a baby, just sort of had these crazy passing out spells. Aww. And my mom was like it would only happen in front of her. And by the time she got me to the hospital or to a doctor, I was totally fine. I was like, do. And so they had no idea what was going on. They thought my mom was crazy, and I never presented in the right way. So finally, she was like, I know you guys think that I'm crazy, but something's wrong with this kid, and she's going to die over the weekend if you don't take her in.
Oh my God. So, wait, were you like fainting that much?
Yeah. And like I was going blue, and like it was freaky. I mean, it was free. I was like going comatose, just like in her arms.
Oh my God. So how old were you then?
I was a baby. I was
baby.
Yeah, like I was like just learning how to crawl. So it was like when I was starting to exert myself more was when I was exhibiting these symptoms, because it was my heart after all. And like once I started to be more active, it didn't quite work. Mm-hmm. So I got into the hospital. The doctors and the nurses were like, well, this child is here because her mom is very concerned.
No.
And then all of a sudden I had an episode in front of them, and they were like, holy shit. So they realized that there genuinely was something wrong with me, and went in for a cardiac, a heart cath. That's like that following day. And it turns out I had this crazy tetralogy of Fallot, and it was really severe. They're like, we don't really know exactly how she's been alive this long, but
what is a tetralogy of Fallot?
Tetralogy of Fallot is four major defects in the heart. So it's like some valve issues, not enough oxygen was getting to my lungs, to my to the whole body. So it was just a hot mess. So basically I was like everything wasn't going through the heart as it was supposed to. And it was causing lack of oxygen, and it was causing me to pass out all the time. So once they realized that I had this issue, it was good because we realized what it was. And then they were like, okay, well, this is a major cardiac defect, and we could go in there and like fix it, and it'd be really cool because you'd be the first one that we've done this on. And my mom was like, no. So they were luckily able to do a little bit of a time saver procedure, and they did what's called a Blaylock shunt, and they took the artery out of my right arm and hooked it up to my lungs, mm-hmm. so that it would buy me a little bit of time. So that was when I was like 14 months old. And then I had good outcomes after that. I wasn't passing out as much, and I was like functioning more like a kid should function. And then, so that bought me time, and so that I could grow a little bit more and develop, so that I would be stronger for when I would need this big open heart surgery.
Okay, this product is a big thing in our house, especially with Jared and I, because it hydrates us. And a lot of the times we'll go through the entire day and we're like, oh shit, I've only drank 1 bottle of water today. But I know that for my body weight, I need at least 4, which is why I drink liquid IV. I just pop it into a water bottle. And then this 1 water bottle with liquid IV, a packed liquid IV in it, actually makes it like 3 water bottles. That's how hydrated I'm getting. We also really like it because it helps with flight altitude sickness. It is really good with the whole like jet lag as well, because everybody is super dehydrated when they get off of a plane. So if you're a traveler, good for that. And if you're just somebody who doesn't drink water, this is great for you. You don't have to drink as much. It's also non-GMO and has clean ingredients. It's so much better than those sugary sports drinks.
And the reason why I personally love it and use it is to avoid getting sick, because I feel like you guys are always traveling a lot. I'm traveling a lot. And so during cold and flu season, staying properly hydrated is actually one of the most important factors in flu cold recovery and prevention. So Liquid IV contains 110% daily value of vitamin C and B12, which I love. And I feel like I really haven't been getting sick lately because I've been drinking Liquid IV.
It uses a special technology that the others don't have. It's called cellular transport technology. It's a specific ratio of glucose, sodium, and potassium that when mixed with 16 ounces of water helps your body absorb more water and nutrients than a normal drink would help put water into your bloodstream.
Liquid IV is the fastest growing hydration brand, and you can find them everywhere, even Costco. You can find them at all Costcos nationwide.
You know that's legit, when you get Lend in Costco.
That's true. I love Liquid IV, and I know you will too. Right now, our listeners get 20% off at liquidiv.com when you use our code GETIT at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order on Liquid IV's website. Go to liquidiv.com and enter the promo code GETIT to get your savings and start getting better hydration. That's liquidiv.com, promo code GETIT. Don't wait. Get hydrated today.
So then in 1982, I had the major open heart surgery where they went in there and fixed everything. And it was, by all accounts, really successful. I went in, I came out, I woke up just fine. Minimal side effects. I bounced back really quickly. I was supposed to be in the PICU for like a week or 2 weeks. And by day 3, I was like, okay, hi, let's go home now. And
wow.
Everyone was thrilled. It was just a wonderful repair. And so that was 1982. So we go on living our lives. It was this wonderful, miraculous thing that we had this issue, but it got fixed and now we can go on. And when I was about 8 years old, the medical community realized, this was happening and I had a blood transfusion during this open heart surgery in 1982. And at that time, they weren't screening blood products, and no one realized that that was an issue until years later. And so when I was 8 and we were realizing that HIV existed and AIDS was a thing, and they realized, wow, this has been out in the blood supply for however many years. Wow. And there is a certain number of people who had gotten blood transfusions and blood products in this time that were at risk. So they reached out to my family and they said, hey, she had a transfusion during this risk time frame. And it's up to you if you want to get her tested. If she's been healthy, it's probably fine. It's a really minimal chance that she's actually contracted it, but we just need to let you know. And my parents were like, well, she's been healthy this whole time. I'm sure she's fine. We don't want to put her through one more blood test. So they just said, okay, well, thanks for letting us know. And we're good.
Wow. This is a nightmare.
But not really.
I mean, like, I know you're fine. Like, I know, like, how you are now. So, like, it makes me feel obviously better. But, like, just, like, if I were hearing this in the 80s and not having the advancements that we have today, I don't even know. But continue.
Yeah.
But you lived, Jane, you lived 5 years fine, though, right?
Well, yeah, because it normally doesn't show up for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that was it was pretty, like, it didn't have any effect on me. I wasn't symptomatic at all. And yeah, I mean, at the time also they were like, even if we found out that she was positive, there's nothing we could do for her. There were no medications for kids. So it was like, well, yeah, you could have this knowledge, but there's nothing you can do. So, and I was healthy. So they had no reason to think that I was infected. So 2 years go by. I'm 10 and I start to get, I get these back-to-back infections with strep throat, like one after another. I never had gotten sick like that before. And all of a sudden it was just coming on strong. And my mom is a very, very smart woman. And she was like, this is worth looking into. And so she took me in and they're like, yeah, let's just do the test. We might as well just check it out. Meanwhile, all my cardiac stuff had been great. I went in for like a yearly checkup and it was fine. And it was great. So they went ahead and got me tested. And so that was when I was 8. Sorry. That was when I was 8. And they came, the test obviously came back positive, spoiler alert. Mm-hmm. And they called my mom, and my dad was working at the time and my mom was at home, and they called my mom and they said, they're like, can you come in to meet us? And she like, no one wants you to come in if it's good news.
Yeah.
Like they'll tell you good news over the phone. They're not going to tell you bad news over the phone. So she knew what they were going to tell her.
Your heart is pounding all the way to the appointment.
Yeah. And I was oblivious at this point. Yeah. But she was like, oh my God. So she went like by herself. My dad was at work. My sisters were in school. She just drove to the doctor's office, and he sat down in the office and looked at her and said, she's got HIV. The test was positive. And he was pretty nonchalant about it, like not in a good way, but more in a like, yeah, there's really nothing we can do about it. So, and he was like leaning back in his chair and just not the right way to deliver horrible news.
Wow. Like basically like it was a death sentence at the time. And there was nothing he could do. So it's just, I can't even feel anything right now, like numbly.
Yeah. He literally was just like, she's got 2 years to live. So enjoy her while you have her.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So my mom took this news, went home, like obviously was devastated, told my dad, and they were like, well, there's nothing we can do. We don't have medications. So we're not going to tell her. Let's just let her live her life, and we'll take it one day at a time, but we're not going to freak her out. So they didn't tell me right at first. They told me that I had like a bug in my blood.
What does that mean?
Well, that was like their euphemism for it. Like they wanted to tell me something, but they didn't really want to like lay this heavy information on me. So for a while they kind of just glossed over it. And then a couple of years later, this is when I was 10, and they did actually start coming out with phase 1 drug protocols for pediatric patients with HIV. And so there was finally this like hope on the horizon, and they could get me into this drug protocol. And it was very involved. You would go, it would be like every month going in for really intense testing. And it was a big change. So they were like, well, we have to tell her obviously what's going on now, because she's not stupid and she's 10 and she'll figure all this out when she sees like AIDS posters all around her. So they told me, and when they told me that I had like the quote unquote bug in my blood, all I cared about was that I didn't have to have another cardiac surgery. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, let's move on. Let's go do something else. And then when they came back and told me, well, this is HIV and this is the virus that causes AIDS, that's when I actually got it. And I was 10, and I was obviously super like upset and crying. And I had a great support system right there. It was my mom and a few of the nurses that I really loved and trusted with me at the time as they were telling me this at the hospital. And so we kind of just sat together, and I cried a lot and they cried. And then after probably 20 minutes, we got up and we're like, well, let's go to the gift shop. And so we just like walked out and skipped down the hall and went to the gift shop. And that's kind of how we rolled this whole thing. Like, yeah, things kind of suck along the way, but like, let's go to the gift shop at the end and let's do something fun at the end. So then at that point forward, obviously my life completely changed, and I sort of had this double life start to happen, because so I was 10, so this was 89. And at that point, AIDS was still super stigmatized. I mean, it still is, but it was like to the point back then where it was dangerous to tell people. So we weren't open with it. We didn't tell people. And my parents always told me that if I wanted to tell people that we totally could, and they would support me, but I was afraid to. I didn't want to do anything. Like, this was the era of Ryan White, and I didn't feel safe being open with it.
Did you guys know that in just 2 minutes twice a day by brushing your teeth, you can pave the way to a healthier mouth and mind? And let me say heart as well, because brushing your teeth is good for your heart. Kids, the new toothbrush is the same as our original version, just tweaked for size down mouths. I know a lot of you listeners have kids, and they can also get involved with the quip culture.
I like that kids can have an electric toothbrush. I think it's very important
Kids'
to
mouths
use an
can be
electric
stinky,
toothbrush.
you know?
Yeah. And it's not like fair that they get these like little dinky things with like Sesame Street characters on them.
Dinky thing.
Kids are inspired to brush better and more often with oral care that looks and feels like the products that adults use in their life.
I prefer Quip over other electric toothbrushes because I find that their sonic vibrations are a lot more gentle and more sensitive than your standard electric toothbrush, which sometimes you can be done and you're like, oh, I kind of feel like a little bit
ouchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little ouchy. And in this case, they're very gentle, and they also have this 2-minute pulser, which tells you when you should switch sides, and you can clean your whole mouth evenly. I always notice that without the beep beep, I end up brushing my lower teeth way more than my upper teeth.
Right. And what's great is that the brush heads are automatically delivered, you guys, on a dentist recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5, and a friendly reminder when it's time for a refresh and to stay committed to your oral health. So that is why we love Quip, and why over 1 million happy, healthy mouths do too. Quip starts at just $25, and if you guys go to getquip.com/getit right now, you can get your first refill pack for free. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/getit.
Before you continue, I have 2 questions. When kids contract it, do they respond any differently than adults? Like, because your immunity is higher when you're a kid?
That's a good question. I'm sure it's different. I don't know the physiology behind like a pediatric patient versus an adult patient physically reacting to it. I can tell you psychologically, I think it's honestly easier for kids to deal with things than adults. Because I was still like learning who I was and forming an identity, and this just became part of my identity.
Yeah,
it wasn't like I became, it's not like, oh, I grew up and I formed this life and now all of a sudden it's different. Right. So, but yeah, physiologically, I'm not sure. I know that the medication regimens are different, but I don't know the exact science of how one responds differently versus the other.
I have another question. If you never got the surgery, the heart surgery, would you have survived?
No.
Okay.
No, I would have passed out and not woken up for sure.
Wow. And did you, when they told you that you had it at 10 and you knew what it was, did they say, like, can they track the chances of it going to stage 3 and turning into AIDS, or?
Yeah, at that point, it was pretty inevitable that it would turn into AIDS, and it was, because they like the only meds that they had were like experimental meds, and so I literally asked my mom, "Am I going to die?" And she said, "I don't know," and she said, "I don't know, but we're gonna be with you every step of the way, and we're gonna try to figure this out."
Yeah, that was what I wanted to know. Like at 10, did you know if you had a certain amount of years to live or not?
Oh yeah, no. At that age, I got in touch with the idea that I would probably not live to see high school. And like, I remember going out and I was like, 'cause I have 2 older sisters, and I was like, okay, well, and then I got this news, and then I was like, okay, I cried. Now I'm okay. Okay. Now we can go and tell Heather and Kelly. And my mom's like, they have known for 2 years.
Oh, really?
I'm like, I'm always the last to know. But then at that point, I was.
Were you mad? Were you mad at your family for not telling you?
She's too young, probably, to feel that.
No,
maybe.
Yeah.
I think I'd be mad. I was such a little shit.
At 10, you'd be mad at your family?
Yeah, I'd probably murder my mom.
Oh, my God.
Gypsy Rose. I'm just speaking from the heart.
Okay, so when you were like on the playground, if you were like to get a cut or like, you fell off your bike or something, would your parents be like super freaked out that like nobody would go and touch you? Like, so that it would get into any open cut? Like, how are your parents dealing with like your blood being out there?
Yeah, they would tell me like, this is how it's spread. And if something happens at school, you need to be really careful and like make sure that none of your friends go up there and get all up in a cut. And we did tell the school nurses so that they were aware of that every school where I was. But yeah, they were like, just so you know, this is, if something happens, you need to like protect other people from your blood and you need to take it seriously.
And like taking sex education, did they like give you your own, like, I don't know, like more in depth? So not your own, not from the school, but like your parents teaching you about like condoms and stuff?
You know what's kind of funny? I don't remember my parents ever having the sex talk with me.
Okay.
And I don't know.
Our parents didn't do it either.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe I blocked it out because it was so horrifying. But I don't remember it at all. And I kind of just grew up knowing, like, oh, this is how things work.
Yeah.
And this is, like, there was never a point where I was like, can I like have sex with this guy and will that be safe? Like, for some reason, I always knew that I needed to like be smart when it came to that.
Right. How long did you keep it a secret, James?
So I didn't tell any of my friends until I was in high school, and it was my senior year, and I was literally graduating, and I decided that was the time that I wanted to just come clean. I had formed really great friendships with my high school friends, and like these are people that I was going to be friends with forever. And I was like, I can't live this double life. I want to be honest with them. And so, and I had already recorded the Oprah episode at that point. So I'm like, well, I kind of have to tell people now because it's definitely going to come out. So
you need to talk about the Oprah episode.
So yeah, you were on Oprah?
On 1997, right? The World AIDS special?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the a World AIDS Day special that she did. And I was one of the people that she had on the show. But I'd recorded that before I like made the whole announcement to my high school class. And I did this intentionally. It was like literally we had graduation practice, and then everyone was like, go get lunch, and then we have to come back for this assembly. And all my friends were like, why the fuck do we have to come back for this assembly? This is so annoying. And I'm like, I know, this is such a drag. Like, joke's on you, I'm the assembly. And so we got back, and I like made this speech to the whole class, and then the next day we walked and we graduated. And I wanted to do it at the very end because just in case it didn't go well, I could leave town and it would be fine.
Wow.
Well, was everyone nice about it?
Everyone was amazing. I was so floored. I'm sure there were people that were either indifferent or had negative reactions, but I never saw it. And just my whole, like, the majority of my class lined up to like give me a hug.
Aww.
And it was like an hour of my entire class just coming up and loving on me. And that was like the best. That was one of the best things. I was so scared. I was like crapping my pants, and I was it turned out so well.
So by 97, you obviously made it to high school graduation. Did you find a treatment that was working, or is it still delaying? Because I guess we still haven't found a cure, so everything is still just a delay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So ever since that first drug protocol for pediatric HIV meds, it's gotten better and better. So at the beginning, it was literally 2 drugs. And if one didn't work, you moved on to the other. And if that didn't work, then you're screwed. And that was really the issue, because it's known that you're not going to be on an HIV med forever because the virus is very smart and it adapts and it changes. And so the trick is you have to stay on top of it and in front of it, and you have to always have something waiting in the wings. So over those years, it had really developed a lot where I had gone from one protocol to the next and had really good success. There were a couple that I didn't respond well to, and luckily there were others that I could hop onto after it. But it was really well controlled, and I had a couple of times where I was really sick, but for the most part, I stayed pretty healthy, and I had really good luck on all of these meds.
All right, so it's crazy. This is mind-boggling to me. It's a truly I don't get it. If I go to Earth Bar and I get a green drink, I'm still apparently not getting enough greens and vitamins for the day. All right, so I use Ritual. It's a vitamin that is going to give me everything that I need as a woman in a couple little vitamins. This is specifically designed for women, you guys. It's a multivitamin reimagined from D3, not the Mighty Ducks, from D3 to omega-3. Rituals essential for women, helps fill the gaps in a woman's diet. Because it's shocking. You still have gaps even when you drink green juice. What's so amazing about Ritual is that they have a no nausea design that's going to be easy on an empty stomach, so you don't have to worry about feeling nauseous after you take your vitamins, and you don't get that fishy aftertaste, which is common with most omega-3s.
Which is why I love Ritual, because when I wake up first thing in the morning, sometimes I'm not like super hungry, but as with other vitamins, I'm always like, oh, well, I got to eat something because I got to take my vitamins and I don't want to be nauseous. But the great thing about Ritual is you can take
I'm not
it.
even hungry yet. But then you find yourself eating because you need to take your
vitamins.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's great because I basically wake up in the morning, I take Ritual. It tastes very minty. It doesn't taste fishy at all or gross. And I feel like I'm starting the day off great. And I've been taking it for like 2 months now.
And you're looking better than ever, I gotta say.
Oh, well, thank you, Lauren.
You're looking better than ever.
Thanks to Ritual.
Better health doesn't happen overnight, and right now Ritual is offering our listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Fill the gaps in your diet with essentials for women, a small step that helps support a healthy foundation for your body. Visit ritual.com/getit to get your Ritual today. That's 10% off during your first 3 months at ritual.com/getit.
James, so we know that you made it through high school, and I know you're married, so we'll get to that in a second, but I'm really interested in like mentally, like, you know, aside from the stuff that you're sharing with us and that we can like look up on Wikipedia, I want to know like what challenges did you go through mentally? What was maybe like your darkest day? How have you overcome it? And what stigmas do you want to like break to people out there that maybe get HIV and are really scared to tell anyone?
Yeah, I think it's so different back then than it is now. So today, I think that there still is really a stigma, and that it's so manageable. I mean, it's considered a chronic illness and not a terminal disease anymore. Yeah. So it is so manageable, but I think people are still petrified at the thought of it. And it's a lot of the fear of the unknown, where if you don't live it, you don't know that it's actually something you can live with. And so right now, I think that still is a pervasive fear for people. So back when I was younger, there were more fears for me, just of like general safety and keeping it quiet. And I'd had a couple of really tough days at the hospital, just going through a lot of painful procedures. And, you know, one day in particular was just a mess, and I ended up getting like all these shots and procedures and lumbar punctures. And it was the worst day. And I got a kitten out of it, so that was cool. but you know, I'm so lucky to have had a really supportive family and access to healthcare and a really great support system along the way, that I think so many other people have not been that lucky and have had horror stories. But for me, I've honestly been so blessed that it's been a really positive journey.
How has it affected your love life?
Okay, so that is probably where it was most challenging for me, because I was, you know, going into college when I had told my high school class, and I went into college, and, you know, you're supposed to like start becoming an adult and living your life. And for me, I needed to tell people before I got intimate with them. And just for my own personal thing, I just needed to tell people. Yeah. And so I ended up not having a lot of boyfriends. And it's so funny because on your first episode, you talked about this, like, we never were like boyfriend girls. And I was the same way. Like, if I couldn't see a future with someone, I was out. And so whenever I met someone and started to get interested in them, I always had the conversation of like, I wonder if this person could handle having this conversation with me. And that was a real good litmus test for a lot of people, because we didn't get to the point where I ended up having a conversation with a lot of people, and that was probably for the best, because they were boneheads in one way or another.
What advice do you have to people? Like, how do you have that conversation?
So for me, I needed to do it sooner rather than later. So I wanted to tell people in the beginning of a relationship, and I would basically just say, hey, like, this is great. I really like hanging out with you and getting all of the feelings. And there's something that I need to tell you about me and my health history. And then I would go into, I was born with a cardiac defect and blah, blah, blah. And in 1982 and blah, blah, blah. And then after I would like say all that, I would like word vomit all of this information on them. And then it was kind of like my process was I would tell them and then I'd be like, okay, bye. And kind of like, I would leave it up to them as to if they want. I was like, you can ask me any questions. I will be here. I'm really into you, or else I wouldn't be having this conversation. Right. And then it was like emotional purgatory of just waiting to see if they were.
That's brutal. How many guys like decided to halt it at that conversation?
Honestly, I only had one who was like, no, I can't do this. And I was very selective about who I told, but only one of them was like, came back and was just like, I don't think I can handle this. And honestly, like, I'm not mad at him. I was heartbroken because I really liked him. But I wasn't like, I can't say that I wouldn't say to do the same thing if I were in his shoes. And it sucked, but there was nothing I could do about it. And I just kind of moved on from there. And so I would always sort of emotionally try to like neutralize myself after I told someone. And the reason that I knew, like, now that I'm getting into adulthood and I met my now husband, and one of the things that I knew, I was like, oh, this is for real, is when I told him I could not mentally distance myself from him. And that like emotional purgatory was torture. And I couldn't let go, and I couldn't like pretend that it would be okay if he wasn't okay with it. And thankfully he was.
That's with your husband?
So yeah.
Can I ask you really maybe TMI question? Did you sleep with more people than just your husband?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I did. And I would tell people, and we would just be safe.
And then,
so yeah.
Jane,
but
for
I think
you,
it also,
so it never turned to AIDS for you.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. But you're constantly dealing with being in stage 1 because there's 3 stages?
I don't know about the stages.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm like still considered HIV positive. And
Got
then
it.
if it were to progress, it would be AIDS. But yeah, like I go to my doctor every 6 months, and I take 2 pills a day. It's super manageable. It's like,
wow.
Especially compared to what it used to be. It was really intense.
Right. Do you show any, like, are there any symptoms or things that happen throughout the year to you physically that you have to deal with being HIV positive?
Yeah. The only thing, one of the things that's been impactful for me is some of the earlier meds had a ton of side effects. And one of the meds had the side effect of lipodystrophy, which is the abnormal distribution of fat on your body. So I have a really thin face, and based on genetics and the side effects of the meds, I've got like little chicken legs and chicken arms and a thin face, and like I had a breast reduction because my breasts were really big. So it was that displacement of fat that I've always been a little bit self-conscious about. Like how skinny my face looked, and I got like I've done fillers and Botox and all that fun stuff, which has helped. But that was the only long-term side effect that I've really experienced. The other meds I've had side effects during, like while I was taking them, like a couple of them caused an upset stomach. But other than that, but those early meds could be pretty brutal, which is why a lot of kids like don't take them, and they don't stay on them, and their parents don't make them stay on them because they're really brutal and they're really difficult to take, and then they end up not working.
I know that the medicine has progressed, but is there like a decrease in people contracting HIV?
Yeah,
there is.
Yeah, there absolutely is. Yeah. So when so there's a level called the viral load of how much virus is in your body, and that affects how easy it is to transmit that. So with these medications, if the HIV is under control and that viral load is low or 0 or undetectable, then it's actually difficult to transmit, which is great. Good. So it makes it so that it's harder to transmit sexually or through blood products or, IV drug use.
I'm sorry. You continue.
Oh no, the other great thing is that they've developed medications that they can put moms on so that they can take this medication during pregnancy and then have the baby take the medication right after birth. And there's like a 0.02% chance of them contracting HIV.
0.02, that's awesome.
It's so low. It's amazing.
Is the drug you're talking about PrEP? Because we live in West Hollywood and we get ads on the TV about PrEP.
So PrEP is a lot of what they will give so you'll have serodiscordant couples. So someone who's positive and someone who's negative. So they will have PrEP is something that you would put the negative person on to help prevent transmission. And Paul's not on it because we still maintain a safe lifestyle and there really isn't too much of a reason for him to. But if you are and this is for like super risky, if you were, having anal sex unprotected, that's a really higher risk. It's really low risk for it to pass from a woman to a man. So my viral load is 0 and and it's difficult.
Why is that? That's so interesting.
Because I've stayed on meds and I've been super diligent with adherence, and that's the key. Like if you stay on your meds and you're adherent to the med protocol, then you'll have better luck on it for sure. Wow. But yeah, so PrEP is something that they can that if you know that you're in a riskier lifestyle and you have more risk to contract it, you would take this and it would protect you a little bit more.
This has been so educational.
I know.
Like, wow.
You guys, so I just got our soaps and cologne balm from Duke Cannon, which is one of my new favorite sponsors that we have. I've never even heard of cologne balm, but I got it for my dad because he's been using this organic deodorant, and my mom has called me because she just says that my dad smells like shit now. And I think that this cologne balm is so genius because it's like a little tin and you can carry it. It's very portable. And all my dad has to do is kind of like rub it how you would rub like lip balm on, but like on your neck or other places. And it smells incredible. And I love the soaps from Duke Cannon because they're huge. And I love big things. And they're so aesthetically pleasing because they're brown and tan and they just go up my apartment. And I love Duke Cannon.
Well,
that's all I have to say.
Guys love bar soap. Apparently it makes them feel more manly.
I love bar soap. You don't like bar soap?
I don't prefer it on my own body, but like I like a man with bar soap. Is that weird?
No, that's funny.
What I like about Duke Cannon is like the names are kind of silly. They're funny. They're for dads
cute. Well,
and they're for men.
There's one called News Anchor Pomade, which I gave to Jared because it's always okay. So because he like gets cheap pomade or like he'll hairspray his hair, and I'm like, no. But this News Anchor Pomade has been working really well for him. So much so that I have been using it myself. I'm not even kidding you guys. The past 2 days, I've slicked my hair back, like did like the half up, half down, and put it slicks back and it keeps those flyaways down pat way more than hairspray.
Well, there you go. Stay classy, San Diego. And guys, it's possible that all dads want for Father's Day is a couple of hours of silence to watch the game. Or maybe he just wants a decent hug. But if you're not there to provide one, you guys can send him the best effort by ordering online at DukeCannon.com. You guys can send him your best effort by ordering online at DukeCannon.com. This is the gift that gives back. Duke Cannon is committed to giving back to men and women serving our country, which is why I also love it. And a portion of their proceeds directly support veteran causes. So my dad's obviously obsessed with this.
But you could also get it at Target and CVS locations as of now, which is very exciting.
Select Target and CVS locations?
Yes, okay. So it's not a guarantee, but it is guaranteed that you can get it at DukeCannon.com right now, and you'll get 15% off. So why even go to CVS? Because with the I Don't Get It podcast in our code IDGT at DukeCannon.com, you will get free shipping on orders over $35, plus you're going to get 15% off.
These are the gifts that work as hard as Dad does, both fun and functional. No dad will be disappointed with Duke Cannon's grooming goods.
Before we let you go, Jane, can you just kind of go through maybe a list of like misconceptions or stigma? Like if you have HIV, you can't get pregnant. Like maybe just break some of them right here so people listening know.
I even know
that's not
that
actually the case.
Like being in high school in the early 2000s, even when we first learned about AIDS and HIV when I was in elementary school with 5th and 6th grade, I remember them being like, if you get it, you can't have kids, you know?
Yeah.
But you just totally debunked that myth.
Yeah. And that was the case back then because there was like no protection for that maternal to fetal transmission. So yeah, I guess that would be a myth that you can absolutely have kids if you go on if you get your regular healthcare and you go on the right meds and you have the baby go on the right meds. And typically you would deliver via C-section versus vaginally because there's less risk of fluids mixing from mom to baby via C-section. So that's absolutely possible.
So Jamie, are there any other major ones or is that the main one?
I think the other major one would be that it's going to end your life if you get it. And it doesn't. And it's not to say that you shouldn't be careful, but it's the importance of like, you just know your status, find out what's going on. If you're infected, if it's positive, it is so manageable. There are so many support systems out there that it is not a death sentence. And there's a great community of people that will support you through it. So I think that's a huge one too.
I love it. I love you, James.
I got one more. I got one more.
I wasn't saying bye.
Good. Okay, it sounded like a sign off. Is it expensive to treat, and is it covered by health insurance? Is it hard to get health insurance when you went from your parents to your own?
Yeah, so thank God I have health insurance because the drugs are expensive, but my insurance covers it, so I just pay the copay. And a lot of these drug companies actually have like vouchers and cards and like programs that you can get on that you actually don't have to pay anything for your meds. So it's super manageable that way. And but if you don't have insurance, absolutely, like one of my meds is probably like a couple $1,000s without if I didn't have insurance, like a month.
Mm-hmm. But you were able to get insurance, no prob.
Yeah, because I work, so I get it through my work. But if I had to apply for it independently, it might be more difficult because that would sure as hell be a pre-existing condition. Mm-hmm. But luckily, I just get it through work, and it's covered everything that I need to be covered.
Because of HIPAA, there's no issue with you working in a hospital. Right?
No. And, I considered at first, like, ooh, is this a good career for me to go into just because I will be in the hospital? But honestly, being in the hospital is a really controlled area. And it's kind of a great place for me to be because if people are infectious, they're typically on isolation. So it's a relatively safe place for me to be. But there certainly wouldn't be any, situations where I would be putting people at risk. Unless I were on Grey's Anatomy and sleeping with everyone. And that, as we know, doesn't happen. Sometimes it happens.
You must have had a good experience in like the hospital as a kid to go into child work in the hospital.
I did. Yeah, I really did.
Observation.
A lot of times I really enjoyed going there because I loved the people. They had cool stuff for me to do. And
what hospital is this? Let's give them a shout out.
Are we allowed to give a shout out of what hospital you were treated at when you were a kid?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's fine by me. I went to NIH for all of my drug protocols and they had a really great support system there. So it was a really loving environment. And I got my days off from school with my mom and we would go to the clinic and then we would go shopping and go to Tyson's and hit up the Nordstrom shoe sales.
Actually, James, I just thought of one more question because I've never spoken to someone until today that contracted HIV through a blood transfusion. To me, growing up, HIV was something you got during sexual intercourse. Are there any other, ways to get HIV aside from those two?
Drugs, IV drug use if you're sharing needles, through blood transfusions, through sexual contact, through blood products. So a lot of hemophiliacs who received blood products during the early 80s are infected because the factor that they're receiving to treat their hemophilia is like donated blood products. So that was that's another area that you can get it. But it's interesting you bring that up because this is another point I kind of want to point out is that it's really different. And one of the experiences that I've had is that when I disclose to people and I tell them, every once in a while I will get the, okay.
That you got it like in a sex way or drug way?
Yeah. And then when I go on and tell them how I got it, then they're like, "Oh, you poor thing." And it's amazing how different it is.
It's
like
so
it's
they deserved it if they had sex or they had drugs.
People are
And it
so
shouldn't-
mean.
Yeah,
Ew.
like it shouldn't matter, and people will turn on a dime when they find out sometimes,
Damn,
and
that's fucked.
It
makes
fucked.
sense though. When
It's
you say it, I'm like,
crazy.
yeah, I could see people just being that way.
Yeah, but literally you'll have people go from just like, okay, bye, to, oh my God, you poor thing, bless your heart.
It's also like if you didn't necessarily have to like sleep around to get it through sex. Like your husband could have cheated on you
slept with
and
one
could have
person,
slept with your
you know?
husband. Like you could have slept with one person. Like you don't have to be,
But it's also not wrong.
It's
If you
also
had
not
sex
wrong.
with someone
Absolutely.
and you
I'm
got
saying.
it. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know if there's.
it's
I don't know if there's ever been more of a educational podcast actually that we've done. I really don't
I think
so.
we can't compare them. We did
Okay.
one on miscarriages.
Okay,
You
yeah,
know,
okay, you're
they're-
right, you're right,
We've
you're
done
right.
we've done a
you
lot
can
of great
compare it.
ones.
You can say that I'm better than everyone.
We've had some good ones when it comes to health, especially, but definitely
haven't.
eye opening today. And I
Well,
think
you
we
guys
probably
have
we probably
No,
could have done an
I-
entire episode with her. You know,
Wait, I'm not the whole episode?
we're talking to
You're
we're
45
talking,
minutes of it, so that's a lot.
Yeah,
Teasing you.
you're the majority.
No, you guys are doing a really great thing by talking about a lot of stuff that people don't typically talk about. And it's awesome that it's peppered into this podcast that's really fun and about silly things and that we can all kind of be stupid together. And like, Ashley, you know me, I'm an idiot and stupid. And like, I like,
She
have so much
people. She wears a wedding dress every time there's a bachelor or bachelorette premiere. She wears her wedding dress on the couch.
You are so fabulous. You're like
It's
the
so-
Friends scene, you know, when they're like all sitting on the couch.
Yes.
Wait, before we go, can you tell us how you met your husband?
Yeah, we met at like random happy hour. It was kind of funny. It was after work. I was going out with friends, and he is a teacher, and he was off for the summer. And my friend who I worked with was coming to meet us, and he was like at home on the stoop eating from like a pizza box, like a homeless person.
God.
And she's like, "Come to happy hour." And so he just came along randomly, and we met. And we sat down together and we didn't talk for the first like 30 minutes because we both liked each other. And then we talked and then we like completely talked to each other for the rest of the night. And then he got my number. He asked me on a date the next day. We went out that week. And then 2 months later we were engaged.
I love it.
And you were like 30. How old were you then?
I was 25.
25.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, Jamie, you're
Yeah.
so inspiring. We can't thank you enough for being brave and courageous and open about
you
your whole life. I mean, it really is fascinating how it was like a secret and how you didn't even know. And it's crazy. So thanks for all that you do.
Thank you
you.
so
Thank
much
you,
for being
guys.
willing to talking to us about this, and like honestly, the world, like on Oprah.
What about your book, Jamie? What's your book?
Oh, yeah. So I have a memoir, and I'm a little bit biased, but it's really good. And like I survived, so there's a spoiler alert. But it's called Surviving. Right? It's called Surviving.
That was so funny.
Surviving.
She goes, I survived. Spoiler alert.
Well, it's so funny because my husband didn't read it from start to finish for like 2 years after I published
what
it.
a
I'm like,
dick.
dude, how do you know if I live or not? You need to read the damn book.
That's amazing.
So anyway, it's called Surviving HIV, Growing Up a Secret and Being Positive. And you can get it on Amazon or Kindle.
It's a really
So
cute
cool.
title. All right, thank you,
Thanks.
Jamie. Bye.
Thanks, guys. It's great to talk to you.
So good talking to you too. Bye.
Bye.
Jamie's awesome.
She's so cute.
Her life is just so fascinating. Like, that's insane that her parents knew for 2 years and didn't tell her.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I guess I would do the same if I had a child.
Yeah, I think so. You have to like let them live as normally as
crazy.
possible until it starts
Yeah.
not being normal
Yeah.
because of treatments or
Yeah.
Let them live
physical
their-
I
reactions.
just
Yeah.
love how normal the life she's living now and how it really is
I
just
know.
not a thing. It's not a
No.
thing. If you get it, it's not a thing. Just get your medicine. You can still get married. You can still have kids.
Yeah.
I know, and I think that it's
Be
so
safe.
nice to be called a chronic illness now,
Right.
And not a terminal
illness.
Yeah.
or yeah.
It makes me feel better. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
me
I get
too.
so scared to get tested and stuff. I'm not saying like I have it or anything, but if I do, like it's is a nightmare. But now I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'll live and it'll be fine.
Right. That's so true. Like, that's the one everyone's like, I don't want to get tested.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. But now it's like, guys, get tested.
And if you get tested, then you could have zero
side effects.
Not side effects. Level.
Zero levels, so you don't give it to any others.
Yeah.
And also, look at the amount of progress we've had since her high school, 1997, to now, 20 some years later. Mm-hmm. And just imagine what it'll be like in 10 years.
Right.
Because even when I was in,
incredible.
high school, middle school,
right,
you couldn't have kids still.
Right.
And now here I am 30, and it's totally different story.
Amazing. You couldn't have kids.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All right, so who are we calling next, Ash?
Okay, well now... All right, guys. Now we are going to call 2 girls that have herpes and ask how they deal with that in their dating life and what the misconceptions are there. If the misconceptions are like they are with HIV, we are in for an experience.
So I have friends that have herpes, guys, and neither is worse, but I know that they just really go through it mentally. They literally feel like no one will date them. They feel like the word herpes is like an actual man repeller. And I feel like I would feel the same way if I had it. So I hope talking to these girls, you know what I mean? Like shifts people's perspectives, because you could totally live a normal life. And like I was saying, It's like the most normal one.
Yeah. Because it doesn't affect anything other than just having it,
Yeah.
Right. Most people don't even get, a lot of people don't even
health.
get symptoms of it, I feel like.
Yeah.
So then why do we care so much if we just have these little...
Because people are...
Right. Like, why do people care
Rude.
so much? If it's not preventing you from like...
It's not
procreating.
eating your, body.
Well, I guess because of the warts, right? Like, that's why. Because someone maybe that you're with
They're more like
doesn't wanna
blisters.
Blisters.
The warts are really honestly a whole other thing.
Yeah, genital warts are different, right?
Yeah, but also treatable. Very treatable. Just...
Okay.
All right, so let's give her a call.
So let's give her a call.
We have Anonymous on the line who has herpes. My first question for you is, do you have to legally tell people before you sleep with them that you have herpes?
I don't. I don't think so. I totally haven't looked into that. I honestly, I haven't looked into that, no, but I honestly haven't even thought about that. No.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you haven't just been sleeping around, probably.
Well, not like crazy or anything, but I do have like sex with condoms and stuff like that. So I try to keep it as safe as possible. So it's not like, I don't know how to say this, but I haven't had like a serious relationship like you guys. I haven't really had a serious boyfriend or anything. So
I feel you, girl. Speaking your language.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's not something like if I'm talking to a guy, especially living in a small town, it's kind of hard to be upfront and tell them like, hey, this is going on. So I just try to be as safe as possible.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's
but I understand the risk behind it.
Can you tell us how you got it and
what type you have?
And
Oh, yeah. So I have HSV2, so that's like the genital kind. I don't have any issues with my mouth or anything like that, so I'm good there. So I got it when I was 21. Like I said earlier, I'm 25. So I've had it for about 4 years. I was talking to this guy, and we were hanging out, and obviously, like, we were having sex, and it was unprotected, and I didn't really have like unprotected sex. So he was like the second guy that I had done that with. And we were talking and hanging out for a couple months, and this is kind of TMI, but we would have sex like kind of often. So, it wasn't like I got it right away. It just, I just remember one time we were having sex. Sorry, TMI, but
no, it's okay. TMI doesn't exist on the I Don't Get It podcast.
This isn't a TMI.
Okay. So one time we were having sex, and I just felt like a pressure, and I had never had an STD before or anything, so I was just like trying to go with the flow or whatever, and I just felt like a weird pressure, and then it was like a pinch or something. It just felt weird, and I said, ow. And then he like finished with his business, and I was kind of confused. So I was just like, what is going on? So I went to the bathroom, did my business, and I was just kind of like in a state of what just happened. So yeah, the next couple of days I just felt weird. Like I felt like I had a rash. So I went to the doctor, and I'd had STD tests before, but it was nothing like that. Like I'd never had any other experience with like an STD or anything. So I was just kind of in shock. So I went in there, and she said that she was going to give me the normal test, but then she said that she was also going to test for herpes. I was like, okay. And she just kind of talked to me about it and stuff. And I was just like in a state of shock, I guess. So she treated it like it was chlamydia. And I was just like, okay, I was just in a state of shock, and I didn't even like tell him anything. I was just like, okay, whatever. I'm going to figure out what's going on, and then whatever. She told me that she was going to call me back in a week with the results. And if she doesn't call me, then it's good news. Yeah. And then I was driving home from work like a week later, and she called me, and she said that all the other STD tests were negative, but the herpes test came back positive. And I was just like, what? And she was like, so that means that you have herpes. And so she was telling me about the medications that she was going to send in and everything. And I was just like, I was just in shock. I just stood in silence, I guess, the rest of the drive home. And it was like a 45-minute drive. Wow. So yeah, it was kind of shocking.
So how long did it take for you to have sex with this dude and then develop these symptoms?
I would say 2 months, 2.5 months.
Okay.
So did you ever end up telling him that because it was definitely from him?
Yeah, for sure. It was him. I wasn't having sex with anybody else. And it had been quite like a couple months before I had sex with anybody else.
Yeah.
And
I want to know,
what were your like immediate thoughts? Like, so you're told this, because I actually honestly feel like gynos aren't well versed in herpes. I kind of feel like that's the one they're least versed in, just based off my friend that has it, that has said that they just like are just like, okay, we'll prescribe you this medicine. Here you go, off in life. Like, did they give you any information, and what were your thoughts like immediately?
Well, like I said, at first she treated it like it was chlamydia. And then when she called me to tell me that I had it, she was like, well, you're going to be put on this medication. And, it was like the generic of Valtrex, but I think it's called like valacyclovir or something like that. It's hard to say, but she said that I would be on that. And some research says that it's supposed to reduce outbreaks and stuff like that, but it's like a 50% chance that you won't pass it on or something like that. But she told me not to depend on that or not take it because of that. So I was like, okay. So I just like take probiotics and stuff, but
are the outbreaks when they happen uncomfortable? Like, do you find them to be aesthetically not pleasing? Do you not even notice them?
Do you get outbreaks?
Yeah. How often do you get them?
Yeah. So it was like that first time, obviously, when I got it. And then it was like, and that lasted for a couple weeks. But she, like the medicine that she gave me, and honestly just reduced it. So I just didn't feel it, and I didn't really look. So I was like, I'm not looking. But then I had it like a year later, but I guess you have outbreaks more when you're like super stressed and stuff. So it made sense. But, just a year later. And then after that, I honestly haven't had any issues.
So they don't really affect your life besides like when you're trying to get down.
Right.
How has this affected you mentally, and how has this changed your life? Or maybe it hasn't.
Well, it totally has. Like, I didn't have sex with anybody else for like, I think for another year. And I didn't tell him, to answer your question earlier, I didn't tell him because like after that moment, I kind of like distanced myself, but he also did like a 180 and was acting like a super asshole, which I'm kind of used to. So I just like left it, but I just didn't want to tell him because I felt like I was going to talk to like a brick wall or something, if that makes sense.
You didn't want to call him out and be like, you asshole gave me herpes?
Yeah, I was going to like a couple years down the road, because obviously like a couple of years ago or whatever, but honestly I thought about it and I was like, it's not worth it. Like, I don't want you to find out that you gave this to me or whatever. So, but he is an ass, and I just decided to ignore it. Like, that made sense.
So I hope he knows that he has it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I for sure know that he probably was having an outbreak, and he for sure knew because he was kind of weird about it when we were having sex, and I was just like,
What a teen.
okay.
Can you only transmit it when you're having an outbreak?
That's a question I have.
Yeah, so I guess people are more susceptible to it when you're having an outbreak, things like that. I have never had an experience where I've passed it on to someone else. Like I've said, I've been very careful about it, and I don't have any issues with outbreaks except like those 2 times, and I wasn't messing around with anybody or anything.
This sounds like it didn't really break you mentally. Do you have advice for people maybe that are just finding out that they have herpes 1 or 2 and maybe they're really down about it? You sound, like you're able, like you're fine and you're cool with it and it's a part of you, which is I think how it should be. Do you feel like that or no?
That's crazy that you say that, 'cause, like, I tried to make my peace with it. Like, I had a therapist, and she told me that it was just gonna have to be a new way to have sex. Like, I wouldn't have anybody like go down on me, or I would always have to wear a condom, and it's okay that if I don't tell someone, just to be safe. So it like I guess I not have confidence with it, but it took me a long place to get there mentally, where it's like, okay, like this is a part of it. As long as I'm safe, then I should be fine. And I did tell, like, it took me a couple months to tell like my close friends, but I guess it just all stems from like support from friends. You can go to like support groups online. You can also talk to a therapist. It's a lot more common than people think. So that also helps take the edge off.
Yeah, over 50% of like the population is like the first one.
Well, you're born with that. That's
No,
not a
you're
sexual.
not born with it. You could
some
kiss someone
people-
and get it.
Yeah, I was born with it.
You were born with it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I didn't know you had that.
Yep,
Thanks for opening up and
I have
sharing.
herpes type 1 or whatever that is. Yes.
Yeah.
But you can get, do you know if you can get to by someone with 1 maybe eating you out, or like, is that also a
so
way?
like you can't really ever be gone down on again.
Yeah, basically, but honestly, I'm not. Yeah, that's true. That is very true. But I don't know. I just haven't experienced like that in a long time. But honestly, I'm not.
You weren't keen on it anyway.
So it's not. Yeah, so I'm not.
To each their own.
Deal breaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Right, bye.
So we've looked it up, and if you have an STI or an STD that is uncurable, that you are aware of, you legally have to tell the person that you are having sex with. If you unknowingly know and give it to them, then it's not illegal.
Yeah, there's like a fine or some jail time.
So if you are listening to this, we would love to advise you to legally tell someone so that they can be healthy and get themselves checked.
All right, we're going to call one more person to see how her experience is. All right, now we have Anonymous on the line, and she is going to talk to us about her experience contracting herpes. Hello, Anonymous.
Hello.
We would love to hear how you got herpes, if you know.
So I do not know, which kind of like I feel really wild saying that. I was always very comfortable with like who I was having sex with. Wasn't like nobody sketchy. But whenever I moved across the country, and I was really stressed. I was moving in with my boyfriend, who I had probably spent about like 20 days total with.
That is stressful.
But so I was just kind of nervous, and the stress kind of reignited. I guess it just kind of re-brought up the herpes that I once contracted. But so I was just in a lot of pain, and I honestly thought it was like a UTI or like a yeast infection, because I never even imagined that I was going to have herpes. And then I went to the doctor, and I was so uncomfortable. Like I went to just an urgent care, because after being here for all of like 3 days, I was like, okay, I have to go to a doctor, but like, which one do I go to? And so that was really stressful, trying to find a brand new doctor that was just kind of going to do what I needed to do. And I didn't think it was going to be herpes. But so I went to the doctor, and it was so uncomfortable to sit there in the room, and he had to take a swab of, like all that good stuff down there. And it was like, I was sobbing, and there was another nurse in the room with me, and she was just kind of holding my hand, making sure I was okay. And a couple of days later, he called me and he had the results, and I was like, just don't tell me it's herpes. And he was like,
Well, then
but it is.
Yeah.
He's like, but it is. And so I kind of took a second. My boyfriend was out in the room. I was in the bathroom, and I answered the call. And so he was like, but good news is it's type 1, which you can get contracted by having, like, if somebody were performing oral sex on you. So, and it's not as serious as type 2, where it can just kind of pop in and out of your life. So
you can get
I'm
type
really
1 in your
confused.
vagina? Because I thought type 1 was the mouth and type 2 was genital.
Yes.
She
So you can
got
contract.
she got it from getting oral.
Yeah,
but
you can
what I'm
contract
saying
it from somebody's, like, cold sore.
Right,
So
but then
that's
it's just
pretty
type
much-
1. It's not type 2 just because it's in...
Yeah. So the type's still, like, it's however you contracted it. Yeah. Which I was very
Educational.
shocked about. And I was kind of like, I see herpes as herpes and not like type 1 or type 2, because for me, the type 1 was an outbreak that a type 2 would have.
Right. Okay.
But luckily I only had that one outbreak. And I haven't had anything since, but I've had to be extremely stress-free, which is extremely hard for me to be, because I'm like running a million miles a minute. I don't even know what I'm trying to say next. So it's always interesting. But it was definitely hard. I got off the phone with him. He kind of gave me a little bit of like what's going to be happening next. So he was like, I'm going to send you a prescription for this medication, and it'll make you feel better. And I am a type of person that I love taking baths. So all I wanted to do is just sit in the bath and relax and I just wanted to like sit there and not do anything and like sulk in myself. And I couldn't do that because it was so painful.
Oh, the water.
The bath
hurts.
is bad.
The bath is so bad for you. It's just like, you should just, basically I would sit on the couch with my legs on the coffee table, butt ass naked. And like,
I'm sorry to be laughing, but that's exactly what I'd be doing.
It's so funny because my boyfriend come home from work, he'd be like, how are you, babe? And like telling him, because right whenever I got off the phone, I'm sobbing, and he's like, well, what's going on? Like, it's not herpes, right? Like exactly how I was. And I was like, no, it is. And I was like, but now's your chance. You want me out? Like it's early. Like I've been here for all of 3 days. Like I can go back home. Wow. I'll be good. Like I fully understand. And he was like, what? Are you kidding me? And a backstory to my boyfriend. He is like the most incredible human I've ever met in my life. And he's like, it's like, first of all, I've already decided that you're the one that I'm going to marry. So why, like, it would be one thing if he was unsure and he was like, well, you know, but he's like, no, like you moved here because we're getting married. Like I didn't even if I get herpes too, like we both have it together. Like,
That's
it's not
so
that serious.
cute.
And that's how it should be.
That's what you want to hear.
So
If you
exactly.
have it,
And-
I have it. You jump, I jump.
So that begs the
Exactly.
question: have you had unprotected sex with him now?
Yes. I'm actually allergic to latex, which might have been like my problem getting it. I don't know, but got it from a mouth. So I don't know.
Got it from a mouth.
Got it from a mouth.
So does that mean that if your boyfriend contracts it, he still has type 1, even though he gets it from genital?
I think that's how it works. I still haven't like gotten to the nitty gritty because for the most part, if I can like see, I can feel if I like have a bump and it just feels a little odd, then I'll be like, okay, we're not going to bang today. Like, you know, we're going to hold off for a couple of days. But we're both very sexual people, so it's very hard to do that.
Right.
But we do have unprotected sex, and it's been over a year and he still doesn't have it.
Wow.
How
How
often
often do you
tested?
outbreak? Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
we're going to say the same thing. How often does he get tested?
He hasn't gotten tested since we've been together. I think it's kind of like for him at this point, he's like, well, like
Doesn't matter.
I don't really
You're kind
care.
of bound to get it if you're
You know,
married. Yeah.
he's like, if I get it, then I'll get it. If not, then that's insane. But
That's actually a good. Do you guys get tested, Ashley and Lauren? Because you're in relationships. Like, I feel
No.
like people in relationships don't get tested as much as sexually active single people do.
I got tested for Winter Games, and that's all I really need to know.
well, Ashley,
then-
weren't you a virgin for a while?
Oh, well, we're pretty.
I don't know.
You know what? We were talking about.
Well,
It's
people
on,
get
it's on the
tested for other
reality. It's on the
things.
reality show anyway. It's
Yeah.
like no. I mean, I don't have. I think I'm good to never get tested again. Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
But you get tested for other things.
I get
like
tested
HPV
for chlamydia
and,
and gonorrhea and
And I know a lot of people that have HPV too. Like
Yeah.
I
Right.
have like
The
I know more
world.
people that have HPV than that don't. So
I've had HPV.
I mean,
yeah.
yeah. So it's just kind of one of those things where he's like, well, I guess like call it a day. And I would feel so bad though if I did give it to him, regardless if he's like, I don't care.
You only had the one outbreak, which you say was like really painful. Would you call them like blisters or like pimples? Because I get pimples down there on the occasion, and it's not comfy.
It's not. But whenever I got it, so I'm like thinking back, I was actually with my mom at Hobby Lobby.
Good old Hobby Lobby.
And I went to the bathroom. I'm like, oh my God, like, why does this hurt so bad? So it's like a mixture of pimples and blisters. But also what they don't tell you is that like your vagina is like giving out like gooey liquid too. Like your, what's that word?
Discharge?
Yeah, discharge. But like not only is the discharge like a brownish gray color, it's like, I'm going to get real disgusting because why not? But like the discharge is brown and gray and disgusting, but it burns. I don't know what it is.
God.
So it's like a yeast
burns
infection
so bad.
Or UTI, I feel.
You see.
Even worse, because whenever like the discharge starts touching the blisters, like then it was game over. I was like, somebody put me in, like just leave. Like I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
Well, what are some things that you do to kind of? First of all, how many outbreaks have you had since the first one?
That's just that big one.
I've only had one.
Just the one.
A couple weeks ago, I had like a bump that. And the bumps that like start, they're hard and they hurt really bad, but they're not like pimples. Like you can't pop it. And if you try, it just hurts even more.
Interesting.
So
what do you do to
like,
ease that pain?
That pain, I just, as stupid as it sounds, I just try to be as stress-free as I possibly can because that's what kind of ignites more outbreaks. So like you literally have to be like the most stress-free person. And then also
book a massage.
Yeah.
Right. I just kind of sat there and I was like, okay, it's not that serious, whatever you're going through. Because I quit my job last month, so I had no job all month. And I was just so stressed out. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? But the first time I got it, it's like a small backstory that I won't go into any detail with. But my best friend in college, she was raped and the guy that raped her gave her herpes. And she had herpes type 2. So she has it way worse, way more often. And just like,
So that's the difference?
Sad. How many types are there?
It's more intense.
There's 2.
And it's, and
type
it's
2
more
is
often?
way more intense and it's more often. And there's medication that you can take to control it. Like I have medication that I can take to control it, but it would only be whenever I have an outbreak. I don't have to take it.
So you don't take it
you
regularly then?
No.
When you had the bump a couple weeks ago, you took it then?
I didn't actually. I just kind of like had to calm
Called
down.
some incense and called it a night.
Is it because you don't like taking medicine in general? Or?
I hate taking medicine. I'm the type of person I don't even take
way.
Advil. So I hated it. So I try to do everything in my power before taking medication. I even tried like whenever the like bumps started before I even knew it was herpes, I tried to put frankincense oil on it. Highly suggest you not. So, like, no matter what you do, like there's nothing that's going to make it feel better. A lot of people tried to tell me like a salt bath was going to help. Like the doctor even said, he was like, go to like your local pet store and get like ocean salt. And I'm like, here I go.
Wow.
But
Here we go.
like it's not like realistic things that you can really do for it other than take the medication and calm down and like try not to be so stressed out. So every single time I like have any questions, I ask my best friend and I'm like, hey, we're like our tag team over here, like trying to figure it out.
That's amazing you have her like to lean on.
And I wish that like it would have been opposite because then it would have been easier. Like I wish I got it before she did. But I mean, you win and you lose some. But
You're so nice. I feel like the bottom line here is that people who are out there scared of getting herpes, scared of being tested and finding out they have herpes, it sucks when you have an outbreak, but the outbreaks aren't often, and they are relatively treatable if
And
you want to take
in
the
this
meds.
case, they aren't often. If you have
Yeah.
2, they may be often, but in
Type
either
1,
case,
not
it's
so
not
often.
debilitating on your life, right?
And if
Exactly.
you are nervous about telling like a potential boyfriend or partner, if they say fuck off, then they're not the one. So keep finding
And that's actually another thing about my friend. She was starting to date this guy, was really, really into him. And like, whenever they went to like go have sex, she kind of told him the whole story, including the rape part, because whenever she told me the story, I go, did you tell him that you were raped?
Yeah.
And he basically like shunned her. He was like, get out of my apartment. You're disgusting. Leave.
No.
Like, don't
Disgusting.
ever, like, just leave that away. Like, get away from that. Like, so far. And while it sucked for her at the time, I mean, it's easier to like, she's dating a guy now who is incredible for her, and I couldn't imagine anything else. But like, it also sucks because even like I've been more vocal about it in the past couple of months on Facebook groups and whatnot, just because I hate that there's such a negative stigma.
Sorry. Okay, start with I've been more vocal about it.
Yeah, I've just been more vocal about it with like the Facebook groups and everything, because I think that there's such a negative stigma against it. And I shared my story on one of the posts, and I've had like a lot of girls reach out to me and be like, wow, like I wish I could be like you and be more vocal about it, because I go on dates and I like can't even finish the date because I just like don't even want to tell them about what I have and how disgusting I am.
It
And
breaks
like
my heart. It's
it
so
really
sad.
does. It's really sad. And like, I feel extremely lucky, and like, it sounds so weird to say that, like I have herpes and I'm lucky, but I am, because not a lot of people find out after they're dating like the love of their life.
Right.
And they have to continue to find somebody that's going to be okay with that and like truly, truly love them for them. Because a lot of people see herpes and they're like, red flag.
I have 2 more questions for you. What do you have to say to people maybe that just found out that they have herpes, or that are dating someone that just told them that they have it? Maybe they're thinking of like not being with them anymore. Like, what do you have to say to those people?
So to the people that just find out that they have it, you're going to be okay. I promise. It feels like it's the end of the world. Like everything is crashing down, but it's not. It's just temporary. And there's thankfully new medicine that you can control it with, and just be a little less stressed out.
Yeah.
And then what advice do you have to people maybe that are single, that aren't as lucky, haven't found their person? What advice do you have to them on how to have a conversation about this with someone maybe that they want to be romantically involved with?
So I would say to choose wisely, not only because most people that you're going to tell are either going to go blast it and shun you, or they're going to be so appreciative that you're even coming out and telling them. I personally think that the few people that I have told have kind of been like, really? Okay. All right. And then there are some that are like, wow, I'm so sorry. Like, that sucks. And then there's like the other people that are like, well, like, it's okay. Like, it's nothing. And whenever I went to a new gynecologist, I figured like, you should probably tell your gynecologist that you have herpes. Yeah. And she was like, okay, that's normal. Like, it was it was nothing. Like, I just like came in with an extra toenail, and like, she was like, that's normal. And she is actually the reason why I've been more vocal about it and been so like open and upfront about it. And also like be open and upfront about it, because if you're confident in what you have and what you have to offer, like, why does your little herpes matter at all? Like, you're going to find that person for you. Everybody has somebody.
Spectacular.
Amen, sister.
Yeah,
I
like
love you.
You're the best person we could talk to about this. That's for sure.
I'm very like blunt about things. Like, I'm not, it's taken me a while, but it also is a lot of the help from my boyfriend. He is like my number one fan. And like, he's like, so what?
That's so cute.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. You're incredible.
Thank you.
And
great.
thanks for helping us normalize it.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So
That was amazing. I'm so happy. I feel like
I won't be so scared to get tested now.
right? Yeah. Like, I feel like people listening, you shouldn't. And even if you have HIV or herpes or anything else, like, it's going to be okay. It's not the end. And there's people out there that will love you.
Yeah, and thank God there's like literally Facebook support groups for everything. Like if I got herpes, I would be in there so fast.
Right. Join a support group, and maybe there's other resources in there to help you maybe learn how to start a conversation with someone, because I'm sure that would be so hard for me being single on like telling guys that I'm going on dates with that I have it. So I really want you guys to seek out that advice if that's what you're going through now.
You know what? It seems interesting because I feel like the biggest, after all of these talks, it feels like the biggest issue is telling the people that you want to be romantic with, but like the actual lifestyle having these infections is not like totally life altering. Well, I mean, like it's life altering in some sense, but like the biggest deal is finding a person who's fine with you with it.
It's just the pressures of society. It's like, I don't know why they exist, but
guys are really freaked out by herpes for some reason. They like have like a
women are too. Like,
yeah,
if a guy
I know, but I
has
feel like if
herpes-
you tell men that you have it, they're like, ew. Like something happened in like a fraternity or in high school where they're like, if a girl has herpes, she's disgusting, blah, blah, blah.
Well, then he's not the guy.
Yeah, then he's not the guy. Anyway.
All right, great, guys. Leave us comments in the Facebook group. Let us know other things that you'd like us to help normalize. And thanks for listening, and subscribe to the podcast and the Facebook group and the Instagram.
And please watch What Now, our reality show on YouTube. Just if you're not by your Instagram, you can't click my link. Just type in What Now on YouTube.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
I don't get it.
Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.